Welcome to the Divine Angelic Chosen One channel. This is Gracie, and I also have my channel, the Spiritual Earth Angel 623 channel. The channel that I first came out back in March of this year, when I was starting my spiritual healing, my spiritual awakening, my spiritual journey. So today I'm coming to you. This is Sunday, December the 17th. Coming to you live. And most of the time, you know, I'm always, you know, traveling for my business and stuff like that, me and my husband. So I'm not always, you know, so I'm not have all of my setup or background settings and stuff like that I would see, you know, other people's channels and stuff where they have it, you know, background set up, you know, when they're doing their videos or whatever. So I don't have that. So I just use whatever is at hand at that time. If it's like a logo or something like that, I will use, or some type of prop or whatever that I would use that is on hand at that time. It doesn't matter what type of background setting that you have, as long as you get the message out, and to the ones that need to hear the message or whatever. So let me go on. So I've been having, like I said, I've been having a lot of downloads and things like that. So yesterday, you know, me and my husband had some downtime, and you know, God was like talking to me. I was like on my phone, you know, just doing my normal, you know, everyday normal things on my phone or whatever, and playing games or whatever, or social media, or talking to, you know, my daughter, or, you know, whatever. So anyway, yesterday, the internet is like, all of a sudden, the state that I was in was having like rain and some, you know, some weather, a storm. And so the internet was not really good, you know, at the reception of it. So I kept asking my husband, I said, well, is your internet working fine? Because mine's not working or whatever. So long story short, he said no. I said, okay, then it's just the weather or whatever. And that's what he was saying too, the same thing. So then after he said that, he was like, well, you know, I'm not getting good reception either. I said, okay, then it's the weather and the rain, because it was raining really hard that, you know, yesterday, you know, like it was a real bad storm or whatever. And so I decided just you know, just turn my phone off. And since it wasn't, you know, give it a break or whatever, give it a rest or whatever. So I said, well, let me just turn my phone off and just watch TV or whatever. So, you know, we have like, you know, bed, TVs, refrigerator, everything in our commercial vehicle that we have for our business. So we have all of that stuff there. You know, so I decided to turn on the TV and start watching, you know, movies and comedies, something to make you laugh or whatever. So me and him start watching that, you know, and that's when I started getting downloads from God, you know, as I was doing that. And, you know, he was like, want my attention, you know, I've been so busy, you know, and working, and, you know, we moved in our new home, you know, so I've been really, really busy, really, 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 really busy, you know, and do my downloads, my messages that God give to me, I will go ahead and post them, you know, and he gives me so many. Some I'm not supposed to post because it's only meant for me, for my revelation, and then there's other times that I need to post. And he had gave me like a couple of downloads that I was supposed to post, and I didn't, because of being, you know, working a lot, and, you know, we just, you know, focus, you know, just focus, you know, making our money and stuff like that. But anyway, when I post my videos, sometimes somehow some comments does get involved, or somebody will email me or whatever, and it's kind of strange, kind of funny to me too. But and they would either comment on something on a video, or either that I don't know how to talk to people, like I'm talking at people on the video instead of being like a spiritual teacher, or a coaching or life coach or whatever they were saying. And I didn't let that deter me, or turn me away. I didn't let that get under my skin, because what people has to understand is that when I was growing up, in the household I grew up at, it was talked at. You were being talked at, to do things. It wasn't no sit down, let me explain, what I want you to do, or what's going on, or whatever. It was always do as I say, do as you were told. It was a talk to type environment. Sometimes it's aggressive and hostility, or hostile is what you call environment. So it wasn't where, until I got older and started dating, and then different boyfriends of mine will point out different flaws that I might had or whatever, and and they would try to, because some of my boyfriends are a little bit older than me, a couple of years older than me, so I never really dated men around my age. Everybody was always a little bit older than me, or either I was a little bit older than them, type thing of my relationships that I dated or whatever. And so, making a long story, because I'm getting the downloads as I'm talking, of my past, and I'm going to be talking about a lot of the present time too. So I might be switching up on different things, because this is how my download comes, and I have to speak as it come towards me and come to me. So it might seem like that I might be all over the place with different things and not sticking to the topic of hand. Is okay, because this is way God gives it to me. So but at the end, you will see my point of view, you will see my message, you will see what I'm talking about. So let's move on. So then anyway, with that, go back to yesterday. See how I do it? So go back to yesterday. And so as God was giving a download, I said, wow. I said, so this is why we had this downtime, because God, you really wanted to talk to me, wanted to spend some time with me, and give me and tell me to talk about things that you have said, has given me to talk about to the collective, to the chosen ones, to the 144,000, and to other people, spiritual beings or whatever, that might hear my videos or listen to my videos and might resonate with them, or what's going on with their life, or how things happen. Because my prophetic visions and dreams, a lot of things, it comes to pass quickly, and it's been like that ever since I were young of age, where I could dream and understand, interpret my dreams and my visions. With that, it's been like that where I have been doing this for years. Like I said, none of the stuff that I'm doing is new. My spiritual journey, healing, awakening is not new. This is my second time, because the first time when I went on my spiritual journey, this is what God was showing me and telling me, yesterday, about it. So, and he was saying for me to tell my story. It's time for me to speak out and tell what's going on, what's really going on. how the stalking began and all this stuff, and how I became on my spiritual journey and different things like that. So the first spiritual journey that I came on, I were very nervous because that's when I met my daughter's father, and we ended up getting married or whatever, and joined this church, his church or whatever. And it was like one of the Pentecostal type churches. So it was like, those churches where, they speak in tongues and different things like that. So just give you a little bit of background where I come from. I also grew up in a Baptist church also, in my younger days until I got, of age. And with that, and so he was telling me, how I began my spiritual journey. So this church used to develop your gifts, teach you, your gifts and show you your gifts and your spiritually gifts. I already knew that I was, had psychic ability gifts, from a child as 8 years old, when I used to, see demons on people. And I used to tell my mom and my dad that I see spirits and different things like that. So that's nothing new on that side of the gifts. At that time, I choose not to develop those gifts. I went to God one day and be like, God, I don't want these gifts, because I was seeing so much as a child that it scared me. And I didn't understand why I was seeing demons jumping off of people, or I was in different realms in the spiritual world, in the underworld, and I'm slaying demons and killing demons and fighting demons and spiritual and evil beings, and showing people the light. Once I'm sitting there going to, in my dreams, I will go to where God would take me to people that was dying on their deathbed and different things, and they didn't know how to get to the light, or see the light, to get to heaven or hell, wherever they need to be. And I used to guide them to that. I used to comfort these people that were dying, unexpectedly or naturally, dying of illness or killing, accident, anything like that. I will go to these people that I didn't even know nothing about, and all of a sudden I'm in their house, the hospital, wherever their place of death is at, I'm there. And I will see, and guide them and comfort them and guide them into the light. And like I said, when my third eye and all that stuff had opened up and learned about, chakras, the 7 chakras, and astrology and the moon cycle, learning all that stuff, in my when I started getting into it was in my early teens. When I started getting into it, because my dreams, I used to write it down in my journals. I used to have a whole lot of journal books that I used to write stuff down all the time, of dreams. And then when it comes to pass, I will put a date beside it and say, this came to pass on this certain date. And some things, it took 10 years, 20 years. Sometimes it took 2 days, a day, or 2 weeks, or a month, or 3 months, 6 months, or whatever. I wrote it down. So I was, and when I went to this church, there was great leaders there with, that could see things. They were able to see. They were able to, when I used to go to them and talk to them about, one was the pastor's wife and one of my best friends, and there was some other best friends that I had too. And when I went there, they used to showed me about my spiritual gift and how to develop my spiritual gift when I used to come and tell them about prophetic dreams that I had. And they used to help me interpret the dreams and, show me how to interpret the dreams and, and seek God and pray and meditate and all that stuff. So that's how I developed my spiritual gifts, and also my psychic abilities. And it got to the point that it was so overwhelming that I just went to God, because like I said, I used to see demons off of people. My dad used to walk up in the house and from a card game or wherever he was at early in the morning, and he would turn the light on in the room to say hi to me or whatever. And I don't understand why he would do that. He would come in the house from hanging out with his boys or whatever, or card games, because he likes to play cards. And he would come to my room and he would turn that light on. And I was like, why would he come and turn that light on when I'm sleeping in the middle? I mean, it could be 2, 3 in the morning and he's turning the light on. And I'm looking at him like halfway asleep, halfway awake, looking at him like, why are you turning the light on? And he just laughed, of course he been drinking too at the same time. So he has, he's a little high tipsy too from drinking alcohol too. So, he would do, so he would turn the light off, he would laugh and turn the light off. So as he would turn the light off, all of a sudden these demons jump off of him and try to jump on me, and I'm like fighting. So half of the night I'm fighting his demons that don't, wherever he came from, that attached to him, and they're jumping on me, and I'm fighting these demons and I'm doing spiritual warfare, and I mean, these was demons from hell. And I used to tell my dad about it the next morning, my mom too. My dad just get quiet and don't say anything, but my mom, she just, she would just look at me and just smile. And I'm like, well, why the hell they smile and not saying nothing if I done told them what I done been through, And so it wasn't after I went to, like I said, I talked to one of my dad's older sister. And, she has gifts also. So when I was telling her, I used to go and confide in her about my dreams and stuff like that. And she will break it down to me. And she would tell me about my dreams. And she would tell me about my gifts and all this stuff. And so that's how I begin to walk into my spiritual gift and my psychic gifts. And how most of my dreams will come to pass quickly when I tell it. But anyway, in dealing with, demons and angels, doing spiritual warfare, all of that stuff was a part of my destiny, a part of my life. Once I got into the Pentecostal church, where they were speaking in tongues, and a lot of them has the gift of seer, and prophetic, prophecies and stuff like that. So as they was developing my gifts, showing me how to develop my spiritual side of the gifts, and in me learning about it, and I'm doing my own research and stuff like that on my abilities, to the point that it got so overwhelmed that it's like I was always astral traveling in my dreams to different worlds, to different continents, different planets, everywhere. I was everywhere. It's sort of like a out of the body type experience that I was having. And like I said, the tarot cards and stuff, that was not new to me. I used to do tarot card readings when I was like 16 years old. I learned how to read tarot card readings. I learned myself how to read it. I didn't understand them tarot card readers then when I was 16 years old. But as I began to continue to pick up the decks and then do readings, then I got good at it and got better at it. And at one time I thought that I was going to have a business. And it was so funny because I thought I was going to have a business doing tarot card reader. I had told my mom, I said, look, I even did like a reading on her. I said, Mom, let me do a reading on you. So I did a reading on her, you know, and she was funny because she was like, Grace, you one of my unique child. She said, you just one of my special child that that God has given me. And that's what she used to tell me. She used to tell a lot of people that too, you know, when she were living. You know, she, bless her soul, now she has passed on. But anyway, so, you know, she always supported whatever I did, you know, career wise. My mom was my biggest supporter. And then one of my dad's sister was one of my biggest supporter also. So if I came to those two was best friends. So if I came to those two about something, an ideal, they were 100% behind me. You know, be like, you can do it. Yeah, I believe in you. You know, because they because they watched me as a little child grew up. So they knew that I had special gifts that God has given me. They knew that God has chosen me out of the family, you know, to break generational curses. You know, they knew this from day one, you know, because my mom just said that people used to come and tell her things about me if they see me and her, we walking in the store. And she said that somebody would come and tell her, said, you know, this child right here, they didn't know my name, but they would point to me and said, she got special gift. She had, you know, she has the favor of God on her life. You know, she's going to have a great life, a blessing life. So I already knew, you know, my destiny, how my life was going to be, because God had already revealed it to me when I was a child. That I will be blessed and blessings will come to me. You know, I won't have to worry about anything in life because everything will come easy to me. So I knew that. I knew my blessings. I knew my destiny. So that was nothing new about that at all. It's just that when you encounter people that doesn't have good intentions for you, then that's when your destiny, your plans alter, because you have stepped out of the will of God and start following your own will, your own destiny, instead of following God's will and God's destiny for your life. And I was one of those type people that I would be rebellious and I would step out of the will of God and I would go my own way, my own path. So the things that I went down the path I should never went through, but it's because of my choice, because of the choices that I made, not the choices that God made for me, because I had already knew what my destiny was, my plan was, what my mission and everything on this earth was. And I knew I was an earth angel that was sent from God. God created me. He sent one of his angels from heaven and got into my mom's, but I guess into me as my mom was carrying me. So I already knew I was an angel that came from heaven. I already knew that. And it was from God. I already knew that because even my mom said she had a dream about it, that her and God was talking or whatever about me before I was born, that I was going to be a special child or whatever. So, you know, so with all of that into play, with that part, and like I said, a lot of people joke about it, they laugh about it and all the stuff that, oh, she's no earth angel and all this stuff, until they start attacking me and coming up against me. And when they see that I have a lot of spiritual backing against me, you know, not against me, but spiritual backing with me, then that's when they realize then that what I'm talking about is true. Because when you can't take me down and you throw everything at me and you still can't take me down, then you know that I was called by God and that he's always going to come to my rescue. My ancestors and my angels. You know, I met Archangel Michael. When I first met him, I was like 23 years old. I had just had my daughter. And then me and her father got married a year later. Yeah, it was a year later, because I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter. And when me and him was dating, and we used to live in North Carolina at that time, and me and him was dating, and I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter. And so then that's when, because of his religion, because me, I was going to stay single, you know, and have a child and just let it be, because I was not ready for marriage at that age. So, and I didn't have sex until I was like maybe 18 years old, while like some of my other friends and stuff, they were having sex during high school and different things. That wasn't me, you know. Don't say that I didn't attempt to try to have it, but then I heard God's voice was like, nope, you're not doing this today. And then I would back out and not. So that didn't have my first sex was not till I was like 18, 19 years old, around that time. But anyway, but then let's go back to the vision and the dreams and stuff like that. So once I, you know, got married to him or whatever, you know, I start during my pregnancy, I start noticing that Jesus would come and his angels, and then one side I would see the devil and his angels on one side. So it's like, you know, you have good and bad on your shoulders. So every time I would lay down and go to sleep, and this is when I was pregnant with my daughter, I would lay down and go to sleep. All of a sudden, the devil would try to come, you know, and I would hear him. He will come and try to make his way through the doors of the room where I was at. But he couldn't make it through the doors of the room where I was at, because Jesus and the angels was like on each side of my bed. I mean, I could actually see them on, and I used to tell Kayla's father too. I was like, every time I used to wake up, I used to tell him, I said, look, I see Jesus and angels on the side of me, and then I see the devil trying to come in. And he didn't know how to explain anything to me. He didn't understand, you know, because he wasn't all that spiritual, you know. He was called by God also, you know, to be a pastor, you know, and he has spiritual gifts and stuff, but he chose not to use his spiritual gifts. He chose not to go that route. So, and there was always problems, clashing and stuff like that. So when I'm not getting into that, because that's not the story that I want to tell anyway. But that's for another time. But you know, the pastors and stuff used to tell him all the time. Maybe I am. The pastors and stuff used to tell him all the time, you know, if we went to different churches, like, you know how sometimes when your pastor is invited to preach at a church and stuff like that, and then you have these prophets and prophetess, and the apostolic and the Pentecostal and the holiness type churches and stuff was my background. You know, Baptist first, but then later on in life was that religion. And when you speaking in tongues and different things like that, so when you get into that type of religion and background, you know, you have to conform. It's no out in the world and out in the church, because they would see it. The elders would see it. You know, you had to wear your skirt down to your knees, you know, just below your knees or down to your ankles, whatever you like. But you could not wear your skirt above your knees, you know, in this particular religion and church. You couldn't do that, because the elders would get on you, and they will start preaching the Bible to you and pulling out scriptures and stuff like that and telling you, oh, well, God said that you shouldn't be dressed this way, you shouldn't be talking this way, you present yourself holy before God. So it was a lot of strict teaching, as something that I wasn't used to at first, because before I met Kayla's father, I was a model. I used to model, do hair shows. I used to go around to different parts of the United States, with this modeling company and model. And then I started branching out on my own and getting my own modeling gigs, and I used to go to modeling competitions and stuff like that, and, and model, because that's the thing that I wanted to do. I wanted that to be my career. When you see Beverly Crawford, is it Beverly Crawford? I think, those type models. So that's what I wanted to be. That was my career. That was what I was focusing on, even though I was working in a banking setting. But that was like my little weekend gig that I used to have, and I enjoyed my hobby until I met my daughter's father. And I didn't know that there was a sense of jealousy in him, because he looks very attractive too. Also, he was mixed or whatever, so of course, I didn't know that he was more in touch with his feminine side instead of his male side, his masculine side. He was more in touch with his feminine side than his masculine side. And I didn't know that until it started revealing to me, that God started revealing it to me. And then other people started revealing to me and say, look, your husband is jealous of you. And I'm like, well, why would a man be jealous of me? I didn't understand that. But now I go back to all of my relationships prior to when I was dating. Men used to get jealous of me, and I didn't understand why. Why would you get jealous of your wife or your girlfriend? For what? You are a man, I'm a woman. You supposed to be acting in your manhood. I'm supposed to act in my womanhood. You see what I'm saying? And there should be no jealousy, because I'm not jealous of you. I'm going to uplift you more than be jealous of you, of your accomplishment. But it was not like that with most of the men in my life. They got jealous of my accomplishment. I guess they thought that the more that I go into my career, pursue my career, whatever, then the more they will get intimidated by it. And then they would try to sabotage it. So when Kayla's father saw that I was a model, and I was a professional model, and I did it very well. Because like I said, I used to travel to a lot of states and different things too, modeling. Got a lot of pictures and all that stuff to show proof for it that I was. But anyway, so then he came to me one day. He was like, well, that once you get married to me and you go to my church, which was Pentecostal Holiness at that time. I knew about Pentecostal Holiness Church and Apostolic churches. I knew about that. But I was Baptist at the time when I met him. But I knew about it. And so nothing, that religion was not new to me. It just that I wasn't in that religion at that time. I was a Baptist. And so he was like, well, you can't model. You can't model, that you can't be modeling no more. You're gonna have to stop modeling. So by me being married to him, and he was my husband, so I'm following my vows. He's my first husband, so I followed my vows. I take my marriage vows seriously. When I go before God and I say my marriage vows to him, I take it seriously. Because I don't want later on, he comes to me when it's time for me to pass on from this earth, and he be like, Grace, you did not take your marriage vows seriously. He said, between a man and woman in a marriage. So I took it seriously and stayed faithful seriously to my marriages. The men is the ones that always creep out on me. I never creep out on my marriage at all, unless we were separated. And when me and my husband, which was my ex-husband at that time, my daughter's father, when I start seeing somebody else, is when we were separated. We was living in two separate, on our way to getting a divorce, because I couldn't deal with it no more, with him, you know, cheating. I caught him with women, you know, men too. We ain't going there. But I caught him with different things, and we stayed together. I stayed with him as long as I could, you know, as a wife standing by her husband. But when he does not want to change, and he knows he needs to change, and he don't want to change and want to blame everything on you like it's your fault, when he knows that it wasn't my fault at all, that it was some childhood traumas and that he had to experience that he never healed from, and he want to find somebody to blame. So, or what, of course, me, when he know a lot of things was not true. But anyway, I dealt with it as much as I could. You know, I was still faithful in God. He had already left the church, so me and my daughter was still going to church. He had already left the church, refused to even come back to the church after he brought me into his religion. He refused to even stay in it. So I knew, you know, so every, you know, Sunday morning, Wednesday, whatever, Bible study or whatever, I was there, and me and my daughter was there. And he wasn't. He stayed at home. Either he worked, or either he played video games or whatever, or hung out with his friends or whatever. That's basically how our marriage was. And I used to go and talk to his mom, which was my mother-in-law at that time. And I used to tell her, I say, why is your son this way? And she couldn't understand it either. She said, well, he's running away from the calling of God on his life. She said, he does that. She said, I'm not new to this. He does that every time he get with somebody, you know, a female. She said, that's what he does. He runs away from his calling. He used that female as an excuse. And I was like, okay. So, but, and you know, she kept telling me to hang in there, hang in there, hang in there. And I'm like, I'm getting tired of being in this marriage alone. You know, doing everything by myself alone, taking care of the bills. You know, he would have a job and he quit it. You know, he'll get a job and he quits. That's basically how it was. And then, you know, and I just, you know, a person will get tired of that, you know. And I used to get all these type of phone calls. I don't know where these women will get my phone number from, but they will call me and say, well, you know, I don't know if they were playing on my phone or what, but they would say, oh, is such and such there? And I'm like, who are you? You know, and where you get my number from? And I was like, well, no, he has his own number. But I knew that he was like, when he gets jobs, he get like management type jobs. So where he was a manager over people in jobs is what the type of job. So that's why. So I'm, you know, so at that time I'm thinking like, okay, well, maybe they couldn't get in touch with him, and maybe he told them to call my number or whatever. I'm not thinking that these are women that he done been with, and they're just calling me being petty. You know, here I'm in God, you know, God is center of my life. I'm taking care of my daughter. I'm working and all this stuff, you know, trying to keep my household together, you know, and he out there just dipping and dabbing. One woman, when we moved to North Carolina, and I had already got the apartment because my job moved me. I used to work in banking for so many years, and my job moved me to North Carolina because it was closing out different departments. So that's how I ended up in North Carolina, because they moved me. My whole department just moved. And they asked us, before they moved, they said, well, your department is shutting down. So do you want to move to North Carolina? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, get out of the state that I'm in. Yeah, why not? I venture out. So that's what I did. So I ventured out. I was not a type of person that is scared to move anywhere. I took on the venture of seeing different things. I love traveling, and seeing different places and staying at different places, seeing different people and all this stuff. That's just me. I was a free-spirited person. I was not what these people think I am, of trying to describe me as mean and evil and selfish, and negative and all this other stuff that they used to talk about me about. Just not good stuff. But that was not me. Over the years, I begun to become bitter and negative and stuff over the years of being in different relationships. When you get into different relationships, sometimes when you come out of a relationship that you done been through and it was worse and traumatizing, sometimes you don't. With me, I didn't heal from those relationships. So instead of me taking time to heal, I jumped right back into another relationship. And that's how it always been. If I got into one relationship and it didn't work out, I move on. And most of the time, I'm not even looking for men. I'm not even looking. They're coming towards me. They're looking for me. I didn't do no chasing at that time. A point in my life, I didn't do no chasing. I could be walking somewhere and a man be like, oh, you look good. Or do you have a boyfriend? You have a man? Are you married? Whatever. And I said no. And they look at me like, what? You single? You a beautiful woman like you and you single and all this stuff. You should be. If you was my woman, I wouldn't have you out here single. I would do this, do this, that. You hear the lines. You hear the lines. You hear the story. You hear the game is what you call it, the game. You hear that. So that didn't bother me. And I'd be like, whatever, move on. Because I had like a certain type of men that I would date anyway. The men that I would date was more like light skin, fair complexion men, mostly white, of different race is what I date. I didn't really date a lot of dark skinned men at all. I didn't feel attracted to them at all. And my family and all them, that my aunts and all this stuff on both my mom and dad's side, they know me. They know when I brought a guy home or to meet the family, they knew he was not dark skinned at all. He was fair skinned. That's what I was attracted to. And my dad used to notice it too, my mom too. And so my dad used to say, well, Gracie, he was like, he said, you remind me of my Aunt Fanny. I said, well, who is Aunt Fanny? He was like, he said one of he said, your grandpa's sister. And I said, oh, I said, well, how come I never met her? I guess she must have passed away or whatever. I'm not sure. But anyway, she was no longer living. And he said that she was like me, where that's all she dated was those type of race, color, men's, mixed men's or whatever, mixed color, whatever. And he was like, he said, you just like her. And my dad used to tell me, he said, you just like her, as if she had came back and lived inside of you. And that's what my dad said to me. I said, oh, wow. I said, well, I don't even know this woman. I said, but I like to get to know her, to know who she is. If I'm like pretending like I'm supposed to be, my dad is saying that I'm like her or whatever in similar ways. So maybe she came back and reincarnated in me. Who knows? I don't know. But anyway, with that. And so going through with the developing of my gifts and stuff like that, I mean, one day I just got to the point that I told God, I was like, I do not want my spiritual gifts, and I do not want these psychic gifts either, because I see too much stuff. evil and good. And I was like, and traveling, doing my dreams. I used to travel a lot in my dreams, out of the body experience. I can actually, the type of out of body experience that I had, that I could see myself sleeping. It's like my spirit stepped out of my body, and I can actually see my body just still there sleeping. And I know I have a certain amount of time, to get back into my body, in order to be stuck or forever lost or whatever in the astral plane, the spiritual world, whatever. So I knew that. So I knew all that stuff, with that. Because, and so, long story short about that too. There's so much stuff. There's so much stuff that's going on in my, it's just downloading. All of the stuff from the past and present is coming. And so I just told God, I was like, I can't do this no more. Because after I had wrote a book about heaven and hell that God had gave me. And it's like he had took me like each night, and even Kayla's father, because that's my daughter's name. But even though I had told him, I used to wake up and tell him about my dreams and different things like that. So he knew I had a gifts. He knew I had gifts and stuff like that. That did not scare him, because he knew. He knew about it, because I used to wake up and it's like, hey, I had a dream about you, or I had a dream about such person, and I would tell him. And that was Kayla's father at that time, when I was married to. And so I had told him about that I had a dream about me, that God had came and got me. Each night God would get me. And it was like Jesus was on the other hand, and he will get me at a certain time at the night. Every night, it never failed. At a certain time he will come, and I will leave my body, and I could see my body just sitting there sleeping right there beside him. And my daughter at that time was a little baby, so she used to sleep in the bed with us too. So I could see them sleeping and my body, and I will go off into the spiritual realm, and he would show me things. He would, Jesus was showing me different things of the spiritual realm, the middle earth, where you be waiting to see where you go, and then hell, or the underworld, what they call it now to this day. And he would take me there too, and explain things to me. And I wrote a book about it. It never got published, but I wrote a book about it. So then and I mean, this was straight. I mean, it was detailed. After I finished with that dream, then I come back into my body, and then that's when I will write it down, and I will start my journal, and I write down what I had saw, what I was told, and all this stuff. Then after that, I wrote a full book about it, because I used to talk about it, in that church that I was at, my girlfriend's church. So at that time, one time I had to do like a teaching, like a Bible study. And I talked about it. I talked about that dream and everything in that book and stuff like that, about heaven and hell. And next thing I know, it was like I sent it to this publishing company, and I asked them, I said, well, can you publish this book? So at that time, I didn't have the money to really, at that time, to publish a book. So I was trying to do the self-publishing of the book on my own. So I was like doing research and learning how to, publish a book on your own, which, at that time I was into poetry and stuff like that too. So I had a lot of my poems published in poetry books. And then I also went to poetry competitions and stuff like that. I had, also written a couple of other books that I have written. But I never did get it published. So one day, I didn't ever get back with the publishing company. So they must have ended up publishing my book and put it under somebody else's name, because then the book came out, said Heaven and Hell. And I was like, oh my God, this is my book, word for word. This person made a lot of money off of my book. And by me being like in my early 20s and stuff like that I didn't think about suing the publishing company and suing the person and getting the royalties off the book, I let it go. I just let it go. I'm like, well, I know it's my book. I know it's my words, because I end up buying the book and it was word for word. Everything that I wrote down that God has given me was in this book. And this woman claimed it as her own, like she written this book and got the money off it. It was a '1 bestseller book at that time, back in the 2000s. Yeah. It was like back in the in the 90s, like the 93 up into the 2000. That's what it was back in that days. And it was like a #1 bestseller book. And this woman just like, and I'm looking at myself like, oh my God, my book that I written is #1. And look at all the money that I could have had. But because I didn't have good guidance in my life, as a child growing up, being around people that can stir you in the right direction, when it comes to your calling, your gifts and all the stuff like that in God and just life generally, and you have to learn it as you go on your own, and learn from other people, experiences or whatever, or by talking to other people and learning, as you go along, the guidance, of how to live life and how to do this, how to do that, or whatever. With that. So, but anyway, and if I had knew about the royalties and knew about suing the publishing company at that time, but I didn't know anything. And like I said, I just let it go. And now as I'm looking at this day, this today's time, a lot of things that God has given me, creativity and different things, people will come and try to steal it from me and try to make it their own. Like they came up with the creative ideal and don't give me credit for anything that I have done when they have taken and stolen from me and try to make it their own and then get the royalties off it, get the benefits from it. And that's how it's been most of my life, is that I will come up with stuff because I'm a creator. I create a lot of things. And when ideas and stuff like that comes to me, I put it into plan, and then I make it a reality. And then that's when it prosper and manifests. And when people see that you're trying to get above them or better than them, they will come in and try to sabotage it. And they'll try to either steal it too and make it their own. And that's what's been happening to me. And that's why I'm telling my story now. And I never did do a lot of fighting. At that time, I was not a type of woman that would like to fight, because I'm a type of person, I like to stay in the house. I'm an in-body person. I stays in the house. I can be content in the house. That's how I was. That's how I always been. I was never one of those outgoing person. You know, my sisters and different from my friends and stuff like that were, but I was never like that. I was always the one that liked to keep the peace. You know, and like I said, as you get older, you get tired of people trying to come up against you, you know, trying to attack you and try to say different things. You get a backbone and you start defending yourself. So when you start defending yourself, then people want to say, oh, she's being mean. Oh, she's this or she's that, trying to say negative things about you because now you defending yourself. As one time, I was a person that I didn't. And I just allow people to say whatever they want to say. And I just go on. Now that I'm fighting back, now people want to have something negative to say about me. And when I'm standing up for myself, they want to have something negative to say. So, but anyway, after that, so, you know, and that's why I say I'm starting standing up for myself and stuff like that. And I just told God that I did not, pretty much didn't want the spiritual gift, the mission, the path, the anything that he had planned for my destiny, you know, because there was a lot of things going on through that time. Really dark moments in my time, my life at that time was going on. And, you know, what was inheritance and rightfully mine, people would steal, you know, find a way to steal, you know, steal it. You know, if it comes to money, property, or whatever, they find a way to want to steal it and then try to claim it their own. When they know good and well that it didn't belong to them, rightfully belongs to them or whatever. That's just another story, another day. But I'm just telling you how I got to the point to where I am today. And after that, you know, there was always used to be women that used to be jealous of me. You know, I used to be a type of friend where I would give my friend a compliment before I give myself a compliment. That was the type of person I was. You know, back in my early 20s, early 30s. You know, once I got to my 40s, I won't tolerate the bullshit no more. I'm just going to be honest with you. I wasn't going to tolerate the bullshit when I got to my 40s because I've been through too much. So I had set boundaries and everything. Like, I'm not tolerating this, and that. Either you conform or you accept the way I am or keep it moving. That's basically how I was when I got into my 40s and stuff like that. But anyway, so on that point is, like I said, I always uplifted people, you know, encouraged people to do things, to be better of their self. That was the type of person I was, my personality. That's the way God had made me. So it was nothing that I wouldn't do for anybody. You know, if you were in need, oh, I would give it to you. I would have my doubt and my suspicions after I gave it to you. If you're going to do what you say you want to do with the money or whatever. But I still will give it to you out of the kindness of my heart. Even if I didn't have it, I still would give it to you. That's just the type of person I am. I'm not a selfish person when it comes to sharing and being generosity to people. Like the way people are making me out today. I'm not that type of person. And to this day, I'm still that person. If you need something, I'm going to give it to you. If I don't have it, then I'll try to find a way that, you know, or look for resources or anything like that to help you get what you need. That's just the type of person I am. And I always going to be like that. I'm not selfish. I'm not afraid of sharing my blessings with people. But I'm not going to allow you to take advantage of me either. And be greedy of it also. Because then there's a limit and I will cut you off. When I feel like you're taking advantage of me, of my kindness, I will cut you off quickly. And when I gave to people, I did not ask for them to give it back to me. That was the type of person I am. That's how I always been. If I give you something, monetary, money or whatever, I don't ask for it back. Because I knew if you came to me and you asked for something in need, then I knew that you weren't going to be able to pay it back. Even though some people will say, oh, I'm going to pay you back. And I'll be like, no, don't worry about it. It's okay. I'm good. God got me. And that's how I would say it. But the way that people trying to make me now, and these are people that trying to say negative things about me, don't even really know me. Seriously, they really don't know me. I don't think they know of what they heard. But what they heard was not the truth and the real personality of Gracie. Because the real true people that has been around me for years and know me grow up know that I am a kind-hearted, giving person. They know me. So the ones that are saying things about me negatively, those people don't know me at all. They going by hearsay. Or they going by what they see on today's present. Like if they walk up and see me and they're quickly to judge me and they don't even know me. That's those people. Or they envy or jealous of me, and that's the reason why they're saying all this stuff. But anyway, so with that, and after I had denounced the gifts at the first time, which and I can talk to God like that. Me and God has a connection where I can talk to him like I'm talking to you or a normal person. That's the connection that I had developed with God. And sometimes I do get angry with him also. But he has that mercy on me. He'll allow me, because I have free will, when I kick against some things that he might want me to go in different directions or whatever say, and I will be rebellious and do it my way. He'll allow me to do it my way because we have free will. But then as soon as I do it my way and I run into some trouble, he knows that I'm going to come right back to him and ask him to get me out of this or whatever, or help me or whatever. And like I said, that's just the type of relationship that I have with God. Because some people's like, well, how can you say that to God and be mad and say what you say to God? Because that's the type of relationship that I have with him. And that's how I develop. And that's how he knows me, by the spirit and by my heart. Not everybody can talk like that to him. But that's just a relationship that I developed with him. And that's how he knows me. And like I said, he'll let me go out and do what I do. And when I need him, he knows I'm coming back to him. He knows I'm going to come back to him crying and pleading and repenting and everything else. And then I finally start doing it his way. That's just me. I've been like this all my life. Like I said, if my mom was around, she'd be a witness to it. She would tell you that, yes, because a lot of times she has seen me go through a lot of stuff that a different pathway that I'm supposed to be going on my spiritual journey and my path, and I don't go. And I end up going a different direction. And then I get back, and then my mom was like, see, I told you. You should have followed God's plan. God told you to do this, and you did it the other way. And so then that went, and of course God backed off. He did. He never did take away my spiritual gift and my my spiritual mission path or whatever, he never, my purpose on earth, that's what I'm going to say, my purpose here on earth, he never took that away. The only thing he did was, because like I said, I have free will. So he just backed away, you know, and let me do my own thing, because he knew eventually I'll be back. He knew it. Eventually I will. And so he did that, you know. He did that for a lot of years. You know, I did, you know, I still used to have my prophetic dreams and stuff like that, and visions, and I still was seeing, you know, demons and different things like that of the spiritual world and different things like that. I used to see all of that. Those gifts never left me. It's just that God wasn't pushing the issue of, you know, for me to move into that. So, and I did whatever I wanted to do, and I enjoyed it. And what people would say, and you know, in the astrology world, whatever they talk about, the karmics and different things. Oh yeah, I probably was one of those too. During my lifetime before I went into my second spiritual journey healing, which is today and present time that I started. My second one. And yes, I was feisty. Yes, I was negative. Yes, I was ready to fight. I bitch anytime, or man or woman. You know, I'll go from 0 to 200. I ain't gonna say 100, because it's 200 for me that I will go to. You know, I was ready to rumble and roll. You come to me with the BS, and then you better be prepared for the BS to come back to you, because that's how I was. Because I won't tolerate it. No BS for nobody. That was me. You come for me. When I don't come for you, you better believe. You better have everything. Your mama, your daddy, your sister, your brother, everybody. Because once I leash my wrath on you, you won't withstand it. And I'm not being boastful or anything. I'm just telling you how I am when I was back then. Before I went on to my spiritual journey, I was like that. And I still have a little bit in me. So don't test and try me. Like they said, split your head open to the white meat. That's me. But God is working on me with that, you know. And, you know, and with my communication skills and relationship and different things like that, he's still working on me with that on my journey. You know, when you're still going through your spiritual awakening, healing, it's a long process. Nothing is overnight. You know, you still getting to learn to get back on your spiritual path. And then there's new gifts and different things too. And then also my psychic abilities and stuff like that is, you know, has heightened also. So it's a lot of learning and processing everything and learning new things of the new age way of learning and saying and thinking, you know, and not the Stone Age way of thinking. You know, didn't know nothing about no karmics and all that stuff until you get into astrology and tarot and all that stuff. And, you know, that's when you start hearing and seeing things and reading on things and stuff like that. You know, how to protect yourself spiritually, you know, doing spiritual bath and, you know, protect yourself, you know, from things that we cannot see on this earth. You know about twin flames and divine feminine and divine masculines and your soul connection, your your divine partners and all this stuff. Knowing about all this stuff, I had no clue until I started doing research and stuff like that. Like I said, I read tarot cards, when I was 16 years old. But what they talk about in this new age today is really new to me. With that. And so when I started my spiritual journey in March of this year, basically I thought I was going to get back into reading tarot cards. Seriously, I thought I was going to be reading tarot cards, because I had already knew how to read tarot cards anyway. So I said, oh, well now, since the COVID and all this stuff, I said, I can get into doing this. And that's not how God took me. So next thing I know, I start talking about my spiritual journey, spiritual awakening, spiritual healing. Prophetic dreams and vision is what God wanted me to be talking about, and help other people along the way that is wakening up, to their calling, their purpose on life, what they here on earth to be doing. So as it's a long video, and I know that it shouldn't be this long, but it is. But I might have to do a part 2, and this is at 11:11. It's at the time. I might have to do this like a part 2 video because it's a lot, and right now it's getting lengthy as we speaking. So but as I was getting into my spiritual journey and everything else, God took me like a different way, because he showed me in a dream, and I had brought like tarot cards and all this stuff. So I setting up on YouTube and others social media sites and stuff. I said, okay, this is what I'm going to be doing. And not so, because God was like, that's not the plan that I have for you. This is not what you need to be doing. He was like, you need to be talking about your spiritual path, your spiritual journey, because you have your mission, a purpose on earth. You are an earth angel. You have a purpose on earth. And I need you to start speaking to the spiritual beings, the 144,000, about this, that he was going to deliver messages through me to give to people. And sometimes with that, to help other people on their spiritual journey or whatever, and their spiritual awakening, and to heal, because I have a gift of healing also, which I knew that because I knew that when I was a child, and I know one day I cut myself very deeply, and I guess within a day I had new skin start growing over my wound. So I knew that I had a gift of healing, that my body heals quickly, even through sickness, and it burns or cut anything, my body will heal quickly. So I knew I had a gift of healing. And then when one of the bishops, his name was Bishop Daniel, he had a church up in West Virginia, and he was he was a really good bishop. This is where T.D. Jakes and Sarita Jakes came from, his church, Bishop Daniel's church in West Virginia. So that's how I know them, from that church and from that bishop and stuff like that. But anyway, he was like prophesied to me. And when a bishop prophesied to you, I was like, people was like laying out in the floor and all this stuff like that. I'm just gonna tell you a little funny story. And I was, and I was praying to God, because I knew I was next in line. I was like, God, don't let me hit the floor. I said, because these people are not catching him. Once you get laid in the spirit and you hit the floor. And so I was like, God, don't let me hit the floor. I said, because these people are not catching. They all up into the anointing in the spirit, but they're not going to catch you when your head hit that bounce off that floor. And so I was saying it to myself. about that. True story. I was saying to myself, to God, me and God were having a conversation. And when it got to him, he started laughing at me. And I was like, well, why is this man laughing at me? And he was like, and he told like the whole church and all the stuff. And he was like, he said, the reason why I'm laughing at this sister, Sister Grace, and that's what they used to call me, Sister Grace. He was like, because I just heard a conversation what she was having with God. And I was like, oh God. And he, you know, he said exactly what I said to God. He was like, she said to God that she hoped that these people that is catching the people as they get slain in the spirit, anointed get on them, that she does not hit the floor and bounce off it. And I got to laughing because the thing was so funny that I was sitting there laughing. The whole church was laughing because it was so funny. And I was like, oh my God. And I mean, everybody was laughing. I was like, I told the two ladies that was, you know, in the back, you know, because when you're in a Holy Ghost church, Pentecostal and apostolic type churches like that speak, you know, speak in tongues and stuff like that and run around the church and, you know, and shout and all that stuff. And as I told her, I said, y'all better catch me. I said, because I don't want my head to bounce, hit that floor, like, because that's what happened to a couple of people that they was so caught up in the anointing in the spirit that they forgot to catch the people as they laid in, you know, they fall out in the spirit. And I was like, I'm not having no concussion today, you know, from this. And it was so funny. And, so then he started telling me, he said, raise your hands. So I raised my hands. He said, you got another gift that God gave you. He said that you have not developed. And I said, well, oh boy, what is it? He said, you have a gift for healing in your hands. He said, has you noticed? He said, you should probably notice it when you was a child, that if you got cuts or burns or got sick, that you heal quickly. And I was like, and I started thinking about it. I was like, now since he's saying that, it is true. You know, this is really true, right? If I got sick, I didn't stay sick like some of these people stay sick. I will heal quickly. And so I was like, wow. I said, okay. So he was like, yeah, he said, you have a gift for healing. He said, you have a gift to heal people spiritually and naturally. He was like, you can lay hands on people, you know, and pray for them. He said, God will give you certain words to pray for them. And then he said, next thing you know, the healing. He said, when you feel heat coming from your hands, he said, that's your healing power. He said, that's what it is. And I said, oh, that's what that is, you know. So of course the church was laughing again. You know, I was a newbie. You know, in the Baptist church, they don't teach you about spiritual gifts in the Baptist church. You know, they don't teach about that. They don't teach about, you know, open up your Bible and read and study the word. You know, most Baptist church, you go in and the preacher come up with his sermon. He say one scripture and he go off on that scripture and that's it. You don't open your Bible up no more. And I didn't open my Bible up no more until the next Sunday or Bible study on Wednesday. It's when the Bible got opened up in the Baptist church. Or on Sunday morning, when he read that one scripture, everybody closed their Bible and then they listen to him teach or tell stories of different stories in the Bible or you know, or experiences he went through. That's basically what church was in the Baptist. Now, that was back in the days, you know, the 70s, 80s, and 90s and stuff like that, until New Age came in, you know, where now you do a lot of teaching. You know, the pastors and stuff and preachers and bishops will have you open up your Bible now and you follow the scriptures. And then you go home and study the scriptures yourself. Now that's what has been happening now lately. That's what's been going on. But back then, that's all it was. And, you know, if you want to learn the Bible, you're going to have to open the Bible yourself and learn it yourself, you know, with that. So, and So when he was telling me about my gifts and stuff like that, I'm not going to all my gifts, but yeah, that's one of the gifts he was telling me about. And I was like, okay, I see now, and then of course, he went to say, that God's been there for me ever since I was born, the day that I was born, and that my name Grace came from God because he wanted my mom to name me Grace, which I'm named after one of my mom's sister, which was my godmother, which bless her soul, she's no longer living anymore, but I was named after her. Also, her name was Grace too. And so with that, and then he was saying about that, God is always with me, always listening to me. He's always going to be there to protect me because I do have a great calling on my life and I have a purpose. Is the reason why I'm here. It's a purpose. And not only just him saying it, but that's, like I said, it's been a lot of people throughout my life would tell my parents, especially my mom and stuff, that would tell, what type of destiny I had on me, and which was a blessed destiny that I have, that God has, laid out for me. I didn't ask for this. This is something that God gave me. And that's what's wrong with people when it comes to destiny. You think you can destiny swap with this new age, talking about changing destiny with people and, taking people blessings and stuff. You can't take anything that God has given a person. You can try all you want to, but it doesn't work. You will never have that person's blessings. You will never swap destiny with that person, because that's something that God had gave them at birth, when they was in their mother's womb. It's in their DNA. So you can't swap anything or take anything. And that's why when people be trying to do black magic spells and all this stuff on people and try to take it, and then this stuff doesn't work and it backfire in their face, it's because it was ordained and destined by God that you can't. What's for that person is what's for that person. And you can't come and take anything just because that person has a blessed life and think you're going to take something. You can't. It never work out for you. And you trying to get on somebody's spiritual path or trying to be in somebody else's shoes or whatever, it's still not going to work. It would never work. Because their path is different from your purpose, your life. It would never work out. It would never work out, because it's only ordained and defined by that person to walk that path, that mission, that purpose. And that's why some people just need to seek God and develop their own and see what their purpose is on earth or life. Some people has already chosen which way they want to go, good or bad. And that's something you just can't change that, because they have already decided their fate. So I'm going to stop it here. I'm going to do another part 2 because it's a lot. And it's getting lengthy with this video. But I'm going to stop it here and come back and do a part 2 of the video. Until next time, peace, love, joy, and happiness and blessings.